It's lovely to see you all. Thank you so much for joining me. This is going to be fun. We're going to talk about the changing landscape of leadership. And I know that we have prepared questions, and I'm not sure how many of those we'll actually get to, because based on what we've heard this morning, I think we need to address one of the big elephants in the room is that the expectations on leaders these days are just too high. We are expected to embrace unbelievable complexity, but not get overwhelmed, right? We're supposed to be empathetic and warm and loving, but also unbelievably rational and willing to make hard decisions. We're meant to embrace everybody and have this incredible open door policy as leaders, and yet what if we have 100,000 employees or 10 million residents or 1 million citizens? How do you keep an open door to that? It's impossible. We're supposed to balance our work and our life, and yet our families are being neglected because other people are being served, and it's just too much. And I think that the expectations on leaders today are godlike, and it's unfair. As an executive coach, I deal with some of the best leaders we have in this country, and I'm really privileged to be able to do that. But behind closed doors, they're struggling. They're struggling with these expectations. The expectation that they're never going to make a mistake, that they're always going to have the right thing to say, that they're always going to be inspirational and informed and educated. And I think it's just too much. So I would like to start our discussion on leadership with a question about the qualities that are required in leaders today that we might not have recognized about 10 years ago. And the first one, that I'd like to contribute is humility. I think it's the willingness to be known for who you really are, including the bad stuff, right? The weaknesses that we have as leaders are what separates us from God. And we have to be able to recognize not just what we're strong at, but what we're not so strong at, and then have the humility to surround ourselves with people whose strengths are our weaknesses. And I think that's probably, for me, the number one quality of great leadership. What do you think? Guys, who wants to start? Go ahead.
Well, it's a pleasure and privilege to be here. Those who, most of the people here might know me, for those who don't know me, I wanted to say that my job is to help leaders, and we help leaders in too many countries, starting from US, Canada. The area we are working in is medical, so it needs more human interaction and less errors. Unfortunately, it would be harsh, but I have to say that I have seen too many managers, but very few leaders. I can see that the difficulty we are facing to help them, as they are not naturally leaders. There is a big difference between managers and leaders. So, if I want, it won't be nice, but honestly, within my journey, I haven't seen too many people who could lead. Because leading means, for me, is to have a vision and share that vision. And to have the know-how. The problem that many people started as managers, it's a long journey to be a leader. You should start with the people and then upgrade. You should know the ABC, you should know the details, you should be part of it. You should have worked all these layers up to be the leader. So my most difficulty was people didn't know how things are done on the lower stages. And I'm not sure if you share this.
Dr. Adrian?
Thank you, first of all, I'm here. And starting with your question, I think in general, I was in quality 10 years ago and now to be a leader. Because to be a leader, it's like Dr. Zubaidy is not to manage, it's just to lead. And just what we have modified from 10 years ago is a social, it's technology, because technology are here and all the world changing, people changing, and we have finally changed a lot in management of the people. And to be a leader is the same like 10 years ago. A leader is the same, like we have strong character, empathy, with resilience in working, and maybe a lot of understanding of people who are here.
Ifran, what are your thoughts?
Thanks. We've been talking about AI, and I think you touched on the correct area. Is that leadership requires a human touch and humility. And I think, being someone in one of the speeches also said, being a role model, being a mentor. And I think most important is being a friend, because that is how you show your humility. And if leaders are able to show that humility and be able to train and coach and guide people, not by saying that they're the experts and they know everything, but by saying, yes, we are also vulnerable and we'll help in this journey. And I think it also goes beyond sort of two individuals, so a leader and maybe a team member, but it goes beyond that to the team member's life. And how does a leader affect the life of someone, which means, their family and their personal space as well.
That's brilliant. I love what you said about leaders being a role model, and Dr. Hayder about the difference between leadership and management, because I don't think we get that enough. Yeah, the biggest difference between leadership and management is how they're chosen. Managers are chosen by other managers, right? That's a structural choice. How are leaders chosen? How are leaders chosen?
Okay.
They rise by themselves.
They're chosen by followers.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, it was John Maxwell in the 90s who said, if you think you're a leader and nobody's following you, you're just going for a walk. Okay? If nobody's emulating you, if you're not modeling for anybody, if nobody's tapping on your shoulder saying, I want to learn from you, if nobody's actually repeating what you say, you're not a leader. You might be a manager. You might have that authority. But leadership is given to you by a follower. It is when an apex predator with 1 million years of history and wisdom stuck in their head decides, with their free will, that they want to follow you, not because you're great, but because following you improves the quality of their life. That's leadership. So leadership is then, apart from management, the worthiness of being followed. That's what separates leaders from managers, is the worthiness to earn the free will of followers, people, employees, whatever they are, citizens, who follow you because, not because you're great, but because you're worthy. But the expectations of that worthiness, I think, are really, really high. And go ahead, you have a thought.
I was just thinking, the topic of today is AI, or technology, and leaders. The main problem I faced in many countries, and some of them are our countries, and some of them are modern leading countries, that they started using the technology to build the experience. And this is absolutely wrong. For us, technology should improve the experience. The experience should be built and then improved by the technology. We faced an issue in one of our, I'll say, support to one of the institutes, and it's big, that they have the best, and Doctor will understand this, that they have the best laparoscopic surgeons in the world. They faced problem when they had the complication and they had to open the patient because they didn't have the basic. They are brilliant when it comes to laparoscopy. But once you need the old procedure, you lost it. This is why we say we should build and improve by technology.
Dr. Adrian, what are your thoughts on that?
I think the first quality to be a leader is humanity. Because to make a management, you can use application for artificial intelligence. But to lead, it's about empathy, it's about to understand. And it's about how you can take people together with you in a topics, to have a goals. And starting with humanity.
I agree with you.
Because work become technological.
Yeah. Ifran, what are your thoughts on this? What is then the relationship between leadership and the generative AI technology? Is it going to help us in our decision making or strategies? Is that something that leaders need to embrace, or is it just the humanity that we need to concentrate on?
So I think it definitely has to be a mix. It cannot be one or the other. So AI is very important, and I think good leaders should adopt that, understand it, and be able to transfer it and teach their employees and the companies for this. But also I would say that I run hospitals, and I want to bring in a different aspect here. That the markets are also different. So, for example, in the, sort of arguably some of the most difficult emerging markets in the world, in Africa, East Africa, West Africa, South Asia, it takes a whole different level of leadership because there's basic things in those countries sometimes that just don't work. And so sometimes they also leapfrog the technology and you get a lot of AI that can, enable people. But those countries sometimes also have basic issues: electricity, water, availability of transport, security, food. Those are the basic things. And I think that's where leadership comes in, where you are able to support. And something that you said is something that we do at the Evercare group is we have a motto where we say we make life affordable for our employees. And that means how do you get close into them and work with them. But then you leverage the AI into that as well. And when you run hospitals, people always say you need to have a good patient experience. But my belief is that you need to go one step before that. And it's the employee engagement experience, the human experience that needs to be focused on. Because that itself will turn into a patient experience. If your employees are happy and they're treated well, and they have the leadership that they require. So I think those are the things that I would.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think probably most of our artificial intelligence isn't all that artificial. It's augmented. It's augmenting our own intelligence. It hasn't really become truly creative and generative yet. We have aspirations for that. We're going to get there. But that leads me to another challenge that leaders are facing, organizational leaders, is that balance between risk mitigation and investment in innovation, right? So all of you are trying to decide, okay, so do we invest in this? Do we build up this technology, build up this team, build up this department, conquer that geography, whatever. Like that kind of innovation comes with risk. And as a great leader, you have to be able to balance risk mitigation with innovation and expansion. How do you do that?
Usually, leaders' life is based on decisions, and it's based on weighing. I mean, you will decide. Every new investment, every new idea, it comes with a cost. It comes with a financial cost, it comes with time, it comes with risk, it comes with challenges. Now, what I used to say always, and this is my third time I mentioned it in the different conferences, that you should be, as a leader, you should be courageous. Because once you take a decision, it will come with the risk. And you are the liable person at the end of the day. So you should have the courage to say, no, this one, I got that, I approved it, I'm taking the risk. But you have to come to a stage when you say, it didn't work. And learn to quit at the right time. Because not everything will work. Not everything works for me to work for you. We have different environments, different cultures, different services. So I'll say that be courageous to accept the failure as to get tapped on the shoulder and say it worked.
Excellent. That's Adrian.
A good manager keep a balance between resilience and agility, also like a leadership. But if you are a leader, you have feeling and you have take some decision because you think, because you agree with you, it's a good idea. And if you are a leader in the part of governmental or in politicals, to take in consideration social impact, if it's not like a profit organization, but you take this decision because you feel it's good to be here and you assume. A manager take just a checklist.
What are your thoughts on that?
So I would say, one thing we haven't maybe mentioned is proper governance structures. So managing risk with innovation and AI, I think it's very important for organizations and leaders to develop governance structures that are, coherent and foolproof. So then all those technologies can fall within those, a proper sort of structure within a system. And I think that, again, in some of these emerging markets, makes it easier to let people understand how things will work and also to come up with, any untoward situation. And one thing in healthcare which we we're all in, I think, two sectors, education and healthcare. I think we also need to talk about ethics and the ethical point of view of how things should happen correctly, and how can AI help with that, and the leaders' ethics, and how do leaders deal with ethical issues.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I think also one of the things that I want to highlight, we've got about 4 minutes left, so I'm going to make this our last question. I don't know if you've noticed, but there's a panel about leadership here, and we're all like grown men. And yeah, I noticed. I don't know if you noticed. But one of the biggest challenges that leaders have these days is surrounding themselves with people that are different than them and trusting them in order to make higher quality decisions, because that's the only way you can become omni-talented as a leader. We are not prophets, we are not gods. So the closest we can get to omni-talented leadership is a small group of people whose strengths complement each other's weaknesses with a lot of trust and a lot of empowerment and a lot of discussion. That's how we get there. And one of the easiest ways that we can do that is diversity. Different backgrounds, different languages, different strengths, different weaknesses, different genders. All of these things contribute to higher quality input-seeking behavior and higher quality decision-making. That kind of omni-talented leadership can only happen in community. How do leaders foster the kind of culture among their team that embraces diversity and values the tension that it creates?
As you mentioned earlier, as long as the leader was chosen by his people and he will be close to them and he will understand them. I always told my people, my team, who at the end of the day, we are names. Our names were built by our teams. They did their work, they had the success, and we were tapped on the shoulders. So I always told them, if you want to be a good leader, you should be a good follower, because you should follow them, listen to them. I believe that everyone in my team knew better in his area or her area. Now, the diversity you are talking about, the best example is Dubai. We have 200 nationalities, different genders, different ages, and they all melt in a beautiful way and help to improve the society and to improve the country. And that is leadership. Once you achieve that, you achieve your goals.
Diversity gives you a different point of view. And if you take this different point of view, you can go way to thinking outside of the box. And if you have patience to understand all this feeling from this high diversity, you can find a different way, a creative way to solve the problem, or to find a different way to find your goals.
Yeah, I would say, diversity is definitely important, across the board. So not just gender, but also religious diversity, etc. And again, I would say that if it is, it needs to be consciously done in organizations. It needs to be reported. It needs to be watched, and that's what, for example, we do at the Evercare group. And I'm proud to say that we have, our gender diversity is sort of 50% female. We have 38% in leadership capacities. But we report it every subcommittee, every board meeting. It is watched, it is seen, it is reported, and I think that is a very important aspect to keep an eye on it and do it consciously.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for your time and for your expertise. Thank you for sharing your hearts and your thoughts with us. I appreciate you, Dr. Adrian, Dr. Hayder, Ifran.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.